when we understand the mercy God has on us. That is what we need to get today. There's your point, your main point, or whatever we want to call it. Do we get that? We can't be merciful people without it. Why do we need to do this? Because it was done for you by Almighty God. Argue your way out of that one. We as a church must get better at this. Each and every one of us. It's so easy to get comfortable. I was in New Orleans and a lady from Iowa walked in with her husband, and she's a really cool lady. And she walked in and she said, I am the club photographer for this week. My job is a historian for the church, so I'm just going to follow you guys around and tape everything we do so I can bring this back to our church and they can see what we did. I think her name's Terry. Is that her name, Rebecca? Tim's wife?
Greta.
Greta, that's close.
Greta.
Oh, she's got an attitude. And I said, can I see that? Smartphones were just coming in, and she had a really nice Nikon, and she was doing it. I said, can I see that camera? And she said, yeah, sure. And I took the camera. I actually did this. I took the camera, and I went and put it in my pickup, locked the pickup. We're in New Orleans. I went over, and I presented Greta a hammer. And I said, welcome to New Orleans. She didn't talk to me until after lunch. She's a great girl of God. A great girl of God. Maybe someday you'll meet them. They come from Storm Lake, Iowa. How do we get to remember this sermon this morning? It goes back to you. Pay attention, children. You remember when somebody did something for you when you were really hurting? Somebody did something nice to you? Remember what that felt like? I'll tell you my story. I got kicked out of a religious school for lighting a bulletin board on fire. Go home with that one under your belt. Every time my mother looked at me, she cried. I had no place to go. The university was already in action. I had no money. My dad took me up to Hastings Tech. They did individual study. We come home, not too much was said. They needed $118 for me to go to college there. Yeah, I'm that old. I can tell you the place on the farm where Dad stopped to pick up. Nebraska Central Technical Community College, $118. He handed me the check. And for one time in my life, he said, I love you. And then he said, don't tell your mother I did this. But you see, I was in misery. Where were you in your spot? To remember today's sermon, remember that gift you were given as a child last week, whatever that was, and how God gave it to you. And what He did for you. You see, we haven't talked about the end of this beatitude yet for a reason. Blessed are those who are merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Because we're going to end on a story. Okay? By the way, I want to tell you something before we get to the story. I prayed this morning that my back wouldn't hurt so I could preach all day and not have pain pills. There's 2 pain pills here in my pocket. Right there. And they're heavy duty. I said, God, I need you. The Power of your Spirit. It worked for Frank, why can't it work for me? And God is merciful.
Amen.
Thank you, sister. Here's the story. This is a true story. Why are we saying this? I want you to remember something about being merciful. Labor Day weekend, 2008. There's a man at South Point Mall. And he's walking around and he sees all these yuppie couples, hand in hand, shopping. Labor Day, sometime during Labor Day weekend. He's been divorced. He's had a wife abandon him for about 60 days. He hasn't been served divorce papers, but she won't talk to him. She won't accept. He's been abandoned. And he sees all this and he prays, Lord, just if there's any way, bring her back if it's your will. The day ends up in Lincoln. This man goes to his pickup and just weeps. He says, God, you can do anything. Why can't you do this for me? And he weeps for a long time. He drives home. He gets to the York Walmart. Blessed be the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. He picks up, he's batching it now, he picks up a few things. He goes to stand in line. Here is a mother with 2 kids and her mother standing there. This is a man who is a bachelor, basically, and these 2 kids are screaming. You mothers seem to be able to handle this. Okay? But for a bachelor, it's not as easy. They're squirming all over and whatever. The kids were clean, however. But anyway, here's the scene. So, we're here at the checkout stand. This is the checkout stand. Sorry, Lauren. And she has formula here, and the rest is piled up with groceries. And the man standing back here is the man that cried in Lincoln, and all of a sudden, she's handing coupons to the cashier. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Don't you forget that. And all of a sudden, the cashier pushes the manager light, and the manager light comes on, and she goes, can we accept these? And the manager says, no, we can't do this. Those were Air Force food stamps. Okay? So what happened was, she had a couple or whatever, I don't know, she had a couple that they accepted. So she took the baby formula and pulled it this way, and it wasn't whiskey and cigarettes, weren't the rest of it. It was food, it was sugar and flour and bacon and bare essentials. And she kept handing her the ticket and shoving more food back and shoving more food back. The babies became so loud and noisy that she finally handed the other one to mother and says, get him out of here. To which the bachelor smiled. And the food kept going back and back and back. And it was a while. It was at least 10 minutes. And finally the man that cried in Lincoln took his credit card out and went like this to the cashier. And she knew exactly what that man was saying. I got this. The lady is sitting here with about 4 bottles of formula, and the cashier just starts ringing it through, putting it in bags, and she's like, huh? She doesn't really... And when it gets done, the total, whatever that was, the cashier doesn't ring it out. She just says, here you go. And the mother says, the cashier was told, but the cashier looked at the man, and that mother knew. And the mother started to weep. And she says, oh, thank you, sir. And the man, all he said was, it wasn't me, it was God. She She says, I know that. She took about 3 steps over here, and she stood there with her groceries. The man gets through, he goes to leave, and she says, wait a minute. You need to hear this story. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. This is a man who 45 minutes ago was bawling like a baby in Lincoln going, why, Lord, why won't you give me what I want? She says, you need to hear this. I wish Bob Hager was here. And she says, my husband flies for the Air Force. He's in Afghanistan. He changed camps last week and didn't get his payroll. I was in Norfolk 4 days ago at the Walmart, and they accepted these coupons. We don't know why they won't do it here. She said, this morning my husband called me on my satellite phone, on his satellite phone. And she said, we got to pray that God feeds these babies. She told this man that. She said, Mom's out of money, I'm out. And my babies have nothing to eat. And the dad, who was helpless, said, we're going to pray to God to feed these babies. And she was just all over the place. And that person, that man said to that lady, God heard your prayer. And she says, I can't wait to tell him what God did. And the man said, tell him 2 things. God always hears prayers. Always. Always. He doesn't always answer them the way we want. And I said, tell him the second thing is, God loves him, and so does this country. She left. The guy went out the other door, he didn't want to do any more scenes. And the guy that bawled in Lincoln cried all the way home, 26 miles, in joy, because God is true to his purpose. That man was shown mercy because he was merciful. We as individuals in this church have so many opportunities to be blessed with mercy if we will just be merciful. Whether that's food or cars or a hug or an encouragement. We want to be a different church. We want a church that brings glory to Jesus Christ. We will be a church that is merciful. God took an opportunity and blessed 4 people that day because he chose to. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be given mercy. Amen.
Amen.